best musicians aren't always the ones on stage. This is the reality of the music business. Sheer talent isn't always the deciding factor for success in the music industry. The dynamics of skill, opportunity, personality, and showmanship. This is why some musicians rise to the top while others, despite incredible ability, remain in the shadows. Now, I've talked about on my channel Hometown Heroes, and that was a video that a lot of people can relate to. We all know somebody from our hometown who is an incredible player, but just maybe didn't have the skills or the desire or drive to get out of that hometown and, kind of make their way in the music business. And man, some places, they're like the state of Virginia. I'm from Virginia, and we've got a couple, big names from back in the day. Bruce Hornsby was a big name. Came from my little small town way back when. And Dave Matthews. Those are two Virginia musicians that hit the big time. And there are some other guys. Mark Morton, I think, from Lamb of God, is also from my hometown. But man, there's not many others. And the reality is you often have to get out of your comfort zone to go be somewhere to make it. So Bruce Hornsby at some point had to go out to California and get a record deal. And Dave Matthews had to sign with somebody outside of his state. And Mark Morton had to join Lamb of God, and whoever else has made it out of Virginia, the Wooten brothers and people like that. They all had to get somewhere where these things could happen. They couldn't just sit in their hometown and play their butt off. And this is, I want to hear. I know the people in the comments will have, who is the local hero in your hometown who just never, took the chance to see what could happen. But the reality is this: the role of personality and networking. And I would add to that marketing. You don't have to be a marketing executive to be a musician, but it wouldn't hurt. Personality is a huge thing. And look, man, personality is what, I'm giving you on this channel is my personality. And if you can imagine me being on a tour bus, there would be many late night discussions like this. And back in those days, I'd have a beer in my hand and we'd be yucking it up and telling stories and talking about the days of old and gigs in the future and what's going on in the world and everything else. And, you have to be likable, professional, and easy to work with. Now, I can't say that I was always likable and I tried to be professional all the time. And we can all be difficult to work with at times. Everybody has their breaking point on the road. Everybody is different. What one person wants to do is different from the others. But you know what? In the bottom line is you gotta like who you're out on the road with. And look, I get why a guy like Yngwie is the way he is as far as his ego and all that. There might be something to the fact that he may be difficult to work with because he is so great. But a lot of times the best players will not get the calls to do those gigs because you got to be able to fit into different personality situations. If you're a teetotaler, you're not going to get called to go on the road with a bunch of guys who like to drink beer after the show. And so personality is a huge part of it. Um, there have been many people who, I've seen on the road who were hired based on their attitude and, rather than their skill. There's musicians that reach the higher echelon of touring because they had the right haircut, they looked the right part. And that can also be a huge part of it. Image, image, image. Uh, you know, Sometimes it's, three or four guys getting together and forming a team. They all got the right haircut and the right look, and they get together with the right artist. They stick together as a team, those three people and that artist, and they could become the biggest act in the world. I know of guys that were, in my opinion, maybe one of them was really good. The other two were just okay. And they went on to play with, let's just say, one of the biggest acts out there, and for many, many years. And they looked the part. They looked good on stage. They had the right haircuts, and they were certainly adequate enough. But would anything they did, would you go, these guys are incredible? Well, look, to the average listener, they go, it's incredible. I love this song. They played for the song, they played for the moment, and they had the right look. And you know what? Boom, there they are. So, that is important. Personality, networking, image, the importance of showmanship. Now, look, man, it doesn't always have to be, Hendrix or Eddie Van Halen levels of showmanship. But look, you got to know how to go out front, take your solo, stand on. They used to call them ego ramps or the ego box or different things. You got to know how to go out there confidently, play the solo. Know that when you're playing a big festival, the cameras are on you for that brief moment, and you've got to look the part and go out there and sell that song to the people. You might not have written the song, might not have played on the record, but you still got to go out there and sell it and make it sound like the recording. But showmanship can be a huge part of it. The ability to entertain and connect with an audience often outweighs technical prowess on stage. Look, man, you can't be just a guy who just stands in a corner, shrinking violet wallflower, just playing incredible guitar if you want to tour with a country artist. If you want to tour with a rock band, you've got to learn how to have some stage showmanship. And just like my friend James Michael had said, throwing shapes on stage. Walk to a spot, throw a shape. Stand there, hold that shape, have the photographers take your picture, then go over to another place, strike that shape. I could probably do a whole episode on just that, and I may have to do that on this channel so people can know, man. There's a big difference between playing a tiny stage and a huge arena, and having showmanship. You're going to know the difference. Luck and timing is a huge factor in a music career. Talk about, being in the right place at the right time can make or break a career. And man, you know what? Things can happen. You could roll into Nashville or Los Angeles or whatever and roll in with the right look, the right attitude at the right moment. Things can happen overnight. They don't often do that, but they can. And if you give off the right vibe and you're in the right place at the right time, man, things can happen very quickly. And I have seen people, come to town and be, incredibly talented, and they're scooped up like that. So while for most people it will be a grind, luck and timing is very important. And even if you're a stalwart, what is a stalwart? A stalwart is someone that is always there, been there a long time, been doing the grind for a while. If you're a stalwart and things aren't taking off, be aware of that, and keep your act fresh. It doesn't hurt to go get a new haircut. It doesn't hurt to go, beef up the wardrobe a little bit or change your image. Because, man, you know what? Sometimes making those little changes and working on things and making what you do better every time you go out. Because, man, it's really easy to get stuck in a rut. So, don't be afraid to change. You don't want to get stuck and then not get your opportunity. Behind the scenes talent, there you could find that your career puts you behind the scenes. And so a lot of those guys, you don't always see on stage. Some of them choose to occasionally go on tour, like a guy like Uncle Larry, who you saw go out with Joe Walsh for a little bit, and you saw go out with Ann Wilson for a little bit. But most of the time, those studio guys want to stay home so that when the phone rings, they're there for that opportunity. And why? Because that opportunity could lead to a session. It could end up being a huge session. It could lead to some mailbox money, and in addition to their studio, the money coming from the union for their session. And they need to be there for that. And if they're there for that and they, accept those calls, well, they could end up having a lot more records on their wall than I do. And that wouldn't take long to do that, but they need to be available to do that. So being behind the scenes talent, being a songwriter, being a producer that creates incredible music, but rarely get the spotlight. A lot of times the best players aren't out on those big stages. These behind the scenes players often surpass the technical skill of the artist they work for. Now, the lesson for aspiring musicians, the value of balancing skill with people skills. You don't want to be so good that you have no personality. You can be so good that there's no personality to your playing. There's no personality to your performance. You got to have adaptability. You've got to be able to, adapt to whatever situation you're in, whether it means grabbing a different guitar off the rack, grabbing a different outfit, tweaking your image to fit into a new thing. I always used to say to people, you become, if you're a good road player, you become the player that the gig needs. When I was off the road, I looked like this, but when I was on the road and I developed into the player that I thought was the right kind of player for the gig, I had a long black beard, I had my hair long, I was just a wild guy that wore all these graphic t-shirts and all that stuff. And I adapted and became the person that I thought the gig needed. And, that's a big part of it. Keeping your skill level up, being adaptable. And then the final thing, being able to self-promote yourself. If you're playing gigs, let people know you're playing. Even if you know on social media that the people on social media that follow you, they don't go to your gigs. You might have a different audience in real life, but let everybody know that you're playing. Let people know you're alive. Before I got really cranking on this YouTube channel, I would every now and then I would post stuff on my Facebook or Instagram just to let people know that I was still playing and still available so that you can stay in their minds should a situation arise where they need a player of your caliber. Let me know in the comments why you think that sometimes the best musicians aren't always the ones on stage. Let me know what you think about this topic because I always like to hear from you. And thanks so much for watching.